Hey, Boomer.
Hey, good morning, guys. All right, a week off for you guys, but a lot of stuff happening down here in New York, including Juan Soto signing a record deal, which I cannot believe, and I'm a Met fan.
Yeah, it's so disappointing for us. It's so disappointing for me. I got sucked in, lured in again, and thought the Red Sox were in it. But is the NFL player who is the first to $1 billion playing in the league right now?
It would be Patrick Mahomes, if you ask me, even though it's not been spectacular, but all he does is win, and I think they're going to have to redo his contract after this year. He was up to $500 million. I don't know if he'll get the second half of that, but this is a monster contract that if you look at it and you realize that the player has an opt-out after 5 years and then they have to pay him $5 million more if they want to keep him, you would say it's an $800 million contract. It's insane, actually. I was actually against it here as a Met fan because I want them to be able to spend money elsewhere, and I think they will. And you have to understand exactly what Steve Cohen, the owner of the Mets, is trying to do down here. So Citi Field is right next to LaGuardia Airport, and there are areas over there that are dilapidated, and he's trying to bring a big casino down here, and he's also trying to build along the waterfront there, which has already started, by the way, and it's been started by Related Properties, and that's owned by the owner of the Miami Dolphins, Stephen Ross. So there's a lot of moving parts here. Maybe this is the best investment he could have made to get that underway, but I still think it's insane that you're paying this much money to a guy who's really a tool player. He is not a 5-tool player.
It's a lot of money. It's an awful lot of money, but I was hoping that John Henry was going to reach into the pocket and pay it, and he did not. So Rams-Bills, was that the game of the year yesterday?
Offensively, it was, without question. Both of those quarterbacks were amazing. And again, even in a loss, Josh Allen shows you how great he really is. I mean, Tom Brady couldn't get enough of him. I couldn't get enough of him. Even Matthew Stafford after the game said, or I think Sean McVay said after the game, that he's some sort of alien. I don't think Josh Allen has played football as good as he's played right now, or as good as he's playing right now. He is locked in. They are locked in. But unfortunately for them, the Chiefs won last night, so now they are 2 games behind the Chiefs when it comes to home field advantage in the AFC playoffs.
Boomer, the McDermott at the end of the game was so infuriating. I'm rooting for the Bills. I'm tired of the Chiefs. I just, the accepting of the holding call, which I guess you could debate, but the wasting of the timeout that precluded you from kicking it deep after scoring at the end of the fourth made no sense to me.
Yeah, there is no question about that. And, I love the fact that Tom Brady took everybody through that. And I hope people understand that. And he says, I don't want to, belabor the point that they shouldn't have used their final timeout, that they should have ran a play, that maybe they throw the ball in the end zone, was exactly 100% right. And very few analysts are afraid to go there. And Tom Brady went there yesterday, explained it concisely and clearly as to maybe this is going to cost the Buffalo Bills, a chance at a legitimate, either a game-tying field goal or eventually a touchdown, which would win it. So it was annoying to say the least from as somebody who understands the strategy of the game, but I was glad that Tom actually brought it up.
Josh Allen, first player in a regular season game to have 3 rushing TDs and 3 passing TDs. Is he the front runner for MVP? I
would think he is right now. I'm surprised he didn't catch one like he did last week. The guy's been amazing. Really has been an astonishing year for him. We'll see a guy tonight, Joe Burrow, probably put up 400 yards against the Cowboy defense, and he would be in that conversation, but unfortunately the Bengals are only 4-8, so might as well forget about that one. I don't think that Lamar Jackson's going to get it this year. He had been the odds-on favorite for at least 7 or 8 weeks here, and now all of a sudden I think Josh Allen has overtaken him. The interesting thing, too, is next week on CBS, you got the Bills at the Lions. So you may be watching at the two guys at the top of this, Jared Goff and Josh Allen, fighting it out, and whoever wins this game may end up winning the award.
Boom, you talk about that game yesterday, and the Bills obviously lose to an inferior team who was 6-6 going into that game. Is there a clear-cut favorite, or is it so wide open amongst maybe like 5 or 6 teams at the top when it comes to who could win the Super Bowl this year?
To me, completely wide open. There is no question that Buffalo's, obviously, to me, they beat the Chiefs already this year. It's a tough game. This is the tough part of their schedule. Like I said, they go to the Lions next week. So if they lose another game or two, it's really not going to matter. I mean, they're going to have a home playoff game, and then that's when it will become interesting for them. But they can go into Kansas City and beat Kansas City the way that Kansas City's playing right now, especially offensively. Defensively, still a top team in the league. And then over in the NFC, with all the injuries that the Lions have, maybe this 10-day layoff will help them a little bit because they played, the Packers on Thursday. And, at 12-1, they look like they're running away with everything. But Philadelphia is right on their heels. So if you ask me who the it teams are right now, I would say that they are the Lions and the Bills.
Boomer, I didn't hear the UNC Tar Heels in there. What in the heck is Bill doing, and do you think there's a chance in hell he's coaching in college football next year?
I guess so. I guess if he wants to, set up Steve for his future, which is really the ultimate in nepotism. I mean, I think if I were Steve, I'd want to do it myself and on my own. I know I love working with my dad, and I don't want to tell anybody how their relationship should bear out or anything, but if North Carolina is willing to do what is being reported, it wouldn't surprise me because that means he would have his son covered for the next 10 years.
Isn't it also, though, that maybe he's just trying to put it out there that he's open for business and will take jobs if they're available?
Initially when I heard this, guys, I thought, okay, he's eating a little bit of humble pie. He's talking to colleges just to let NFL owners know that, he's not going to be so difficult to deal with. But then when I heard that there was a potential that he was going to bring his son with him and that the son would be the head coach in waiting, then I got a little worried about, is he going to be interviewed by anybody in the NFL? I got to believe he will be. I mean, the Giants are a mess right now. I mean, the Giant fan wants Bill Belichick in the worst way. They are so bad and so awful. And it was like 60% full yesterday. It was like a malaise before Christmas. They still have 2 more home games that they got to live through. There's a really good chance that they're either going to have the first or the second draft choice. Right now, the Raiders are sitting pretty with the first overall pick in the 2025 draft, which would be 100% Shedeur Sanders. So I think he's going to be I would like to think he's going to be coaching in the NFL as opposed to college.
How many teams would give him ultimate control, do you think? Which is what he would obviously get with the college gig.
Right. I would have to say, the Bears are not going to do that because Ryan Poles is there. And I don't know if Ryan, being a BC guy and everything else, I don't know if he has a relationship with either Mike Vrabel or Bill Belichick, or maybe they want Cliff Kingsbury there for Caleb Williams. I'm not sure. I would think that there's probably Jacksonville would probably do that. I would think the Giants would probably do that if they decided to move on from Brian Daboll and Joe Shane. Other than that, I don't necessarily know that I see another place. New Orleans is not going to do that. Carolina's not going to change their coach again this year already. Bryce Young's getting a little bit better. I think maybe 1 or 2 teams.
If you were Robert and or Jonathan Kraft, would you be giving Gerard Mayo another season at this?
It's hard to say right now, given the dearth of talent on that roster. I mean, they got the quarterback, and I think we talk about this incessantly. They got their quarterback. Now they got to build around them. I don't really have a feel one way or the other whether or not Gerard Mayo should be there. If you told me that Bob Kraft was going to move on because they're 3-10, and depending on how they finish here the rest of the year with the last 4 games, that I think would determine more whether or not I would bring them back. But this is, they got to get better players, man. Come on, let's face it. I mean, you guys have watched 20 years of great players, and you know what? It actually kind of reminds me right now, the Kansas City Chiefs remind me a little bit of that Belichick-Brady team that beat the Rams in the Super Bowl, like where it was all defense, it was low scoring, and it wasn't all about Tom Brady in that particular game. I feel like that's exactly where the Kansas City Chiefs are right now.
Would you be comfortable with Mayo, though, when you have an asset like Drake May, and he's not an offensive guy, he's a defensive-minded guy? Are you comfortable with him overseeing that development for the next, whatever period of time?
I'd much rather have an offensive head coach, although it does work. I mean, as Belichick proved out with Tom Brady. But when I think of the coaches that are going to be hired this cycle, Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator from Detroit, is going to be on the top of that list. I would not be surprised if he ends up in Chicago with Caleb Williams. Cliff Kingsbury is probably going to get an interview there in Chicago. I would hope that Bill Belichick would get an interview there. I mean, if you compare Bill Belichick with Caleb Williams, that would be amazing.
Question of the week for Boomer, brought to you by McFarland Energy, the region's most dependable provider of home heating oil delivery and expert HVAC services at McFarlandEnergy.com. Speaking of miserable fan bases, as you were when it comes to the Giants, the Jets do not make the playoffs. That is 14 years in a row. Is Aaron Rodgers sitting the rest of the season, Boomer?
No, I don't think he is. I mean, he showed yesterday against the Miami Dolphins he still has plenty of football left to be played. I don't know what's going on with the Jets right now. I think it's almost everybody's got their stuff packed. I mean, it was an entertaining game for sure. And they played into overtime. They had a chance to win, and they couldn't get the Dolphins off the field defensively. So, depending on who the coach is for the Jets next year, guys, will determine whether or not Aaron Rodgers is still here. Because some coach is going to want to have a veteran presence to actually try to win games. So that's what I've been saying down here. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he stays here.
Boomer, one potential landing spot, if they can put their egos aside, the Vegas Raiders, where it looks like Brady will be the John Elway of that organization. They've had so much success before, him and Bill. Any chance that they can work together in Vegas where Brady goes, let's bring Bill here, and, Bill has complete control, and they go out and they get the quarterback that you said that they want, and they build a good organization down there.
I could, I don't know. Is Tom Brady going to continue to do what he's doing right now? I mean, I think he's good at it. I don't think he's great. I mean, I don't think he's $37 million worth of greatness. But
I think he's one and done.
Yeah, really, that's what it feels like to me. And he'll do the Super Bowl this year, and I give him credit for doing it, because I think the Mannings have built padding around themselves. Like, that you can't really criticize the Mannings, because if you're watching the Mannings doing the Manning cast, that means you like them as personalities, and you like Bill, and you want to see that type of broadcast. So you're going to tune in and you're going to like it, and nobody's going to criticize it. On the other side, Tom is doing it, and he's doing it out there in the wide open. And there are critics out there, and there are people that, didn't like the Patriots, who don't like Tom Brady. I'm not one of those guys, but I could see him being one and done. And I would hope, I don't see Belichick going out there, but I can definitely see Shedeur Sanders going out there. And there will be somebody that Tom Brady probably has liked throughout his career that he'll try to convince Mark Davis that he would be the guy to coach the Raiders moving forward.